Chips, tips, and lips. Welcome back to Sound the Siren. I'm Xavier.
I'm Dylan. Welcome back to another episode. Today we're going to be making our own All-Australian squad. Dave?
Yeah, so obviously the 40-man squad got released yesterday. You might be seeing this tomorrow, but yesterday it got released, and we're going to make our final 22 and see how accurately we can get it, or which people we'd like to have in it. So I just want to say, I think it's going to be pretty horrible. Last year I only got one tip wrong, but this year it's 50-50 in pretty much every position, I think. And the last spot on the bench, I was really struggling to find who I'd have on there, but we'll see. Do you want to go full back to the bench? You can.
But first, before we say it, so obviously there's so many talented players and not everyone can get in. So who is your notable omission from the 40-man squad?
From the 40-man squad, the person I think was number one most stiff was Jake Lloyd. I would have had him in my final team, but he didn't even make the squad. I think he gets disrespected most years, but yeah, I would have had him in my final team, and he didn't make it, so he's not going to be in the team that you see now, but he
Yeah.
would have been.
Yeah, me as well. I'd had Jake Lloyd. He averaged 25 disposals and yeah, extremely stiff. Just not only the top 22, but the top 40. I think he's better than a few players. I won't say who because that's a bit disrespectful, but yeah, I think he deserved a spot. And we may as well get straight into it. You want to kick us off with your three full back line, or three from your full back line?
My fullback line is Nick Haynes. I think he had a great year. Was always going to make it. Harris Andrews, the vice captain from last year, also had a great game and a great season. And Braden Maynard had a real breakout season and stood out for the Pies.
My full back line is a bit different, but I have put some players out of position, and you'll find that in a few moments when we get to the half back line. My full back line is Luke Ryan from the Dockers, Jacob Wiedering, I know you'll be happy with that inclusion, and Jordan Ridley. His first year, he won a best and fairest, and he's going to be an extremely good player for a long amount of time.
My half-back line, pretty similar to your full-back line. I've got Jordan Ridley. As you said, he won a best and fairest. Had a breakout year as well as Maynard. Yeah, really good. Jacob Wiedering also broke out. He was my surprise All-Australian prediction. I think a few people laughed at me at the start of the season, but he really broke out and hardly got beaten. And Luke Ryan as well. So pretty much the same line, just switched. Yeah, also had a breakout year. I think he probably led the league in intercept marks. That's just off the top of my head. I don't know that for sure. But yeah, great season for Fremantle and was a real standout for them.
Now we actually have got the exact same, just mixed up. Whether it's my fault because I haven't really been watching positions this year. Didn't do Supercoach this year. I know you have though, so it's probably my fault. My half back line is Nick Haynes, Harris Andrews, and Braden Maynard. So maybe if we switch them around, then it's identical. We'll move to the midfield. You want to kick us off with your wings?
I got my man, the Bonds. His first half of the season, he had wasn't very good, but his second half was absolutely outstanding. He finished the season, came home with a wet sail, and he makes my wing spot. I got Jack Steele, obviously from the Saints. You're probably a big fan. Had a very good year as well, and a Brownlow Smoky. And I got Sam Menegola. He broke out. Some people, I think he got dropped last year or the year before, but this year he really stood out for them. His ball use has gone to a different level, and he's still finding ways to get the football and kick goals from the midfield.
100%. So just to put it into perspective, you've got on the one wing Bontempelli,
Mm-hmm.
and on the other was it Jack Steele?
On the other was Menegola, Jack Steele in the centre.
Sorry, yeah, Menegola, Jack Steele in the centre. My one of my wingmen has to be Christian Petrarca from the D's, an outstanding year. And I'll skip to the other wing because it's his teammate Clayton Oliver. I think he deserved a spot. If you're a Supercoach fan, he had 205 one week against the Crows. He had 34 disposals of goals. So a really outstanding season for those two. Unlucky for them not to make the finals. And in the centre, I also have Jack Steele, a breakout season for the Saints. The Giants have given up a few good players or extremely good players
Mm.
over the last few years, and another one leaving to your Blues, Zach Williams, while we're on the topic. What are your thoughts on that?
Obviously, he's a great player, but there's reports that he wants to be paid between 800 and 900,000, and
Mm.
I think that might be a little bit overs. But obviously, I'd like to see him at Carlton. I think we need a midfielder most. I think if we could go after Josh Kelly and get him at all costs, I think that would be the ideal situation. But obviously, William said he wants to come, and if we can get him for a bit cheaper than he wants, or he's asking, that'd be great. But midfielder is our number one priority.
Another giant as well going to the Saints possibly is Jai Caldwell, but I think it's a little bit excessive. They were looking at as well 800 to 900,000 a year. So I think he's a good player, but I'm not too sure if he's worth that much. But a handy pickup he could be. It's going to be a crazy off-season. Teams have money to spend. Carlton, one of the big ones.
Especially with the reduced salary caps. I'm not sure that some of these people are asking for overs. And I think if you look at Zach Williams and if he gets 900,000 and then he finishes like 7th or 8th in our best and fairest, then you're going to see people like Harry Mackay, Charlie Curnow, even Doherty, if he has a better season, they're all going to want more than Zach Williams is getting paid because they had a better season. And then it can cause salary cap issues down the line, but we'll have to wait and see.
Now to the centre, so the two remaining midfielders and the ruckman. In my centre, I have, to complement Jack Steele, I've got the Brownlow medalist, or possibly my prediction at the start of the end. It's looking good so far. Lachie Neale, and the two-time Brownlow medalist from former years, Nat Fyfe. And the ruckman to go with him is Max Gawn. And I think Brodie Grundy, was it a bit stiff for him to miss out, do you think?
Maybe a little bit. He definitely fell off in the second half of the season. His first half was still elite, but I think he was carrying some sort of injury throughout the season. And obviously, we all know the class of player he is and just how good he is. So expect for him to bounce back next year. But it's really how many ruckmen do you have in the squad? I think most people would have had Nick Nat and Max Gawn above him. So 3 in the top 40 may be a bit excessive. So
yeah,
it is what it is, I guess.
And even ruckmen like Riley O'Brien aren't receiving as much praise as they should, just because there's so many good ruckmen. Rowan Marshall, another one. So
at North Melbourne as well, Goldstein at North Melbourne also had a very good year, and Jared Witts at Gold Coast had a good year as well.
Your midfielders, Xav.
My followers, I've got Travis Boak and Lachie Neale as the on-bowlers, and I've got Max Gawn as the ruckman. That's probably the one I'm most iffy on, because I think the media, they like to ride Nick Nat a little bit, and I think he might get a bit of praise and probably get into the team. But I think Gawn's only missed 2 less games than him, and I think that's one of the clouds surrounding why he shouldn't make it. But when he's played, he's been absolutely elite and probably one of the best, if not the best, in the comp when he does play.
I think our teams are matching up thus far pretty similarly. We'll move to the forward line, and my half forward line, I've got Paddy Dangerfield from the Cats, his teammate at centre half forward. I'll have Tom Hawkins. And from the Eagles, this one was a bit questionable, but Liam Ryan. Sometimes he doesn't produce the most, but what he does produce are the 1%ers that no one really sees. So I really think he's a great player for their forward line.
Yeah, my forward line, I've got Dangerfield as well. What can be said about him? His game on the weekend was absolutely outstanding. He single-handedly brought back the Geelong, and from the last 2 minutes of the third and the first 3 minutes of the fourth, I think that was probably the best 5-minute stretch of anyone I've ever seen. And he had about 2 super coach at quarter time and had about 30 or 40 at halftime and finished with 170. So that was good for my team and won me a few grand finals. So that was good. But I've got Dangerfield, then I've got Hawkins, who obviously won the Coleman medal, and I think he had the most goal assists in the AFL as well. And I've got Christian Petrarca as well. And before you shoot me for having 2 midfielders, they did play a fair bit of forward. But I think a lot of the forwards didn't really stand out this year. If you look at the other ones, you've got Matt Taberner and you've got Jack Gunston. They were options. And then Dan Butler and Tom Papley, I haven't said them yet. And maybe Zach Butters as well could go into a forward line. But I've got 2 midfielders in my forward line.
And even Dusty Martin could have fit in nicely in the forward line, but not for me. In the full forward line and the pockets, I have Tom Papley in one pocket. At full forward, I've got big Charlie Dixon from the Power. He is a man mountain. He is seriously proving a great pickup for the Power. First on the ladder. Hopefully they don't get the minor premiership curse, and we might review the finals after this. And in the other pocket, I've got none other than Dan Butler. Shout out to the Carlton draft for this jumper. I actually love it. You can't really see it, but yeah, he was probably the least notable pickup of the Saints in the off season, and he might have had one of the bigger impacts out of the pickups. So yeah, outstanding season from him, and hope the Saints can win a final.
My full forward line, I've got Liam Ryan. His second half of the year again was incredible and uh, brought West Coast back and helped them out a lot. Charlie Dixon, as you said, the man mountain. He looked unstoppable this year, and unfortunately for Carlton, he may have cost them a spot in the finals. I think if we had won that, we may have been a little bit more confident going in. But yeah, he played outstanding, not just against Carlton, but for the whole season. And I've also got Tom Papley just over Dan Butler. I think both of them were really good, but I think Papley just for mine.
Yeah, I might be a bit biased. To the interchange we move, and I have got a second ruckman. I don't know if you do, but I have Nick Natanui on the bench. A fellow Eagle as well. Joining him is Brad Shepherd, severely underrated, and I've always liked his game. He won the medal for the Derby, I believe, early this year, or maybe last year. So yeah, at least he's getting achievements, and I think he really does complement that midfield and the backline as well. Very versatile. I've got Sam Menegola, as you had him in your wing, I believe, and Travis Boak as well. I think he's too good to go past. He deserved a spot, and yeah, he could fit in the midfield nicely, but for my squad, he's going to sit on the bench.
I might have a little bit of a bone to pick with that, but I'll give you mine first. I've got Jack McRae. I think he led the league in AFL, in possessions, if I'm not mistaken, but outstanding season for him. Or actually, Lockie Neal led it. Jack McRae was second or third. But yeah, he had an outstanding year. I've got Clayton Oliver. You had him on a wing. I've got him on the bench. Outstanding season as well. I've got Nick Roston. I think he'll probably make it. I'm not sure if he should, but I've also got Dustin Martin because Richmond finished third on the ladder, I think, and the AFL, they like to put in lots of players from teams that play well, and I don't think you had a single Richmond player, and I am a little bit of a Richmond hater, but I think that's my bone to pick. Doing
No,
top four and not a single player makes the Australian team.
I don't think I had a single Bulldog as well, but I was reviewing Dylan Grimes before, and it was either between him and Lukey Ryan, and I just love watching Luke Ryan, and for that defense, he held up well against the Bulldogs on the weekend, even though they won, but he's consistent, and Dylan Grimes missed a few games this year, but I don't know. I don't really have an excuse. Yeah, it's a bit harsh on my behalf, I will say
No
that.
Dusty.
No, Dusty, not this year. I just thought there was players better than him.
Geez, I'm confused as to who the Richmond hater is.
Not me. Not me. No, they'll go far this year though, and yeah,
And
look.
no Bond either. No Brownlow medalist.
Nah, locking me up. Come on. As you said, there are so many great players this year, and there has to be some stiff departures. And yeah, I don't really know what else to say. I couldn't fit him
Yeah,
in.
I think Lockie Neal definitely has to be the favourite for the Brownlow, but I do have a sneaky suspicion that the Bond might still get up. If he can get a few votes in the first half of the year, he's definitely going to come home strong, and
Hmm.
I think he maybe a little sneaky chance. Long odds on sports bet, and if I was a betting man, maybe I would get some of that. But definitely not.
Every year there's a surprise person in the team, and this year it could be Brad Shepherd, and Menegola's not going to be a surprise. He deserves a spot, and I think some of that backline is too strong to give up.
Yeah, I do want to give a shout out to Brad Shepherd. Obviously, he's one of the more underrated players in the league, and he's finally starting to get a bit of credit. Makes the squad, and I've seen a few media members, including Mark Robinson, who released his the other day, have him in their team. So
Mm.
well done to him. He was in the halfway Australian team for absolutely everyone. So well done.
Somewhat,
Also, some people that I wanted to give shout outs. I saw a lot of teams having Caleb Daniel. He was very good, but as you said, the defenders this year were very good. Loston, Ridley, Wiedering, Ryan, Maynard, Andrews, and Nick Haynes were the people I had above him. And like for the defenders, must be pretty strong for Jake Lloyd not to even get a gig in the squad. And Nick Nat, as I said, the media rides him a little bit, but he did have a good year.
yeah. So, what do we think of each other's team? You go first on my team.
I think if you had had at least Dusty, it would have been a little bit better. Even though I'm definitely not a big Dustin Martin fan, and the Bonds as well, a bit stiff not to make it, but yeah, pretty good team, very similar to mine as well.
Is it too late to make a change for me?
No, you can change it still as long
Maybe
as the team is
or
coming up.
maybe replace Nick Nat with Dusty, just because two ruckman it probably isn't ideal.
Mm.
So
I
that's
think
change
I
I
do
make.
have a sneaky suspicion that two ruckmen might happen there because
Hmm.
it has happened the last 2 years. They had Gorn and Grundy in both of them. But yeah, I think Gorn has been outstanding this year, so I have to have him. But every team that I look at has Nick Nat. Every team, and yeah, he's obviously a star. His second half of the year was incredible. But I've got Gorn, no Nick Nat.
I think the last 2 years it's only been just because of how dominant Gorn and Grundy were. Nick Nat, he was good, but not as dominant as Gorn and Grundy were last year. Those two were unstoppable. Any team that played them had a problem against them. So, yeah, if
Yeah,
I was to make a change, I'd definitely replace Nick Nat with Dusty.
I was messaging Bailey, who we had on one of the episodes of the podcast, and he said the exact same thing. Grundy and Gorn they only had both of them because both of them were so good for the whole year. So
Hmm.
it'll be interesting, but just Gorn for mine.
All right, so I'll make that change. Hopefully that team looks better. I think yours was pretty solid as well. A few surprise inclusions like mine. And while we're here, we may as well review the finals just quickly. What are your tips for the first round?
The Port Adelaide Geelong game, I think it'll be good, but Port Adelaide were really impressive on the weekend, but I still think they're a little bit of pretenders. Maybe it's a little bit harsh now. They obviously finished first on the ladder, but I'm going to go with Geelong in this one. I think they were good on the weekend as well. If Dangerfield can play like he did in the second half, and maybe play like that for the whole game, that's a scary sight for Port Adelaide.
I
So I've got
think
Geelong winning.
I'm just gonna say quickly, I think there is credit where credit's due. Port Adelaide have done what no team has done for 20 years, and they've maintained that first position spot all year. So just a quick shout out to them. They've been really good this year.
Yeah, I've got Brisbane beating Richmond as well. I think this will be a very interesting game. Richmond has played better than I thought they would, and not just as a hater. Like all of the injuries that they've had and all of the issues off the field that they've had, they've found a way to just put wins and cover up all of the cracks with wins all season long, really. So, but I've got Brisbane just. I think they might win the premiership. I think Brisbane probably who I would tip. Then I've got the Bulldogs beating the Saints. Sorry, Dylan, but
All right.
the Blunt, I think he's built for finals. I think the Bulldogs are probably the most interesting team. They, like when they're good, they're really good, but when they're bad, they're really bad. Like we
Mm.
saw them lose to 50 odd points against my team, and that was quite embarrassing for them. But when like their midfield, Smith, Hunter, Bontempelli, McRae, um, even Dunkley are all firing, they're incredible and they could make a lot of damage. And then I've got West Coast beating Collingwood. Two of the more injured teams in the league. Obviously, Collingwood won't have Sidebottom and some other players as well. Jeremy Howe has been ruled out for the season. But the Eagles, we just heard Elliot Yeo has been ruled out for the season. Josh Kennedy probably won't be back for that one, as well as Jeremy McGovern not being back for the first game. So
Mm.
that'll be interesting. But team selection might change my mind, but we'll see.
Yeah, I really don't think there's many obvious games apart from that West Coast game. I'm going to tip Geelong against Port Adelaide as well. However, with the crowd, I wouldn't be surprised if Port put up a really good battle and managed to win. The Brisbane Richmond game, I'm going to have to tip Richmond. Harris Andrews might not be back, and he's really just the core of that back line. And
As well
Richmond,
as Jared Berry. Team
yeah,
selection might ride on that one as well. If Berry and Andrews are both out,
yeah.
it'll be really probably quite a hater move for me to tip Brisbane. But if they're in, I'm definitely tipping Brisbane. Carry on.
As you said, Richmond have found a way to turn around almost every game, and they finished the season strong. I'm going to go with Richmond for that game. The Saints Bulldogs, it's really obvious who I'm going to tip. I'm going to tip the Saints. We beat them by 39 points earlier in the year. I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen, but it's potential. And the last game, I have to go with the Eagles at home. They're too strong. We saw what they did earlier in the year, a 66-point demolition to the Pies. And I think it should be a good week two as well. Anything else to say, Zave? I think that really wraps up the episode.
Yeah, nothing from me, Dylan.
All right, let us know which All Australian team was better in the comments. leave a like, subscribe if you enjoyed, and we'll keep getting this AFL content out. And also in the NBA, go Miami, and Lakers lost today, so that's an interesting series as well.
Yeah,
Thanks.
both of them 2-1, both getting a little bit more interesting as we go on. But go Lakers.
Hopefully a Lakers Heat final. I think we'd have a bit of a discussion on a new episode. Anyways, thank you for enjoying, and we'll see you next time.